Today I'm going to tell you about 3 people who got absolutely blindsided at work. One got publicly blamed for something they didn't do. One quit a job they hated and lost everything. One trusted the wrong person and paid for it for years. None of them saw it coming. Let's get into it. I got fired on a Monday morning, in front of my entire team, for something I didn't even do. I'd been at that company for 4 years. Worked my way up from intern to team lead. I genuinely thought I was untouchable. Then a project collapsed. 6 figures gone. And my manager needed someone to blame. He called a full team meeting. Stood up in front of everyone. And said, with my name on the slide behind him, that I had signed off on a decision I never approved. I remember looking around the room. Colleagues I'd worked with for years. Nobody said a word. I tried to speak. He cut me off. Said my access had already been revoked. I was escorted out by HR 20 minutes later, still holding my coffee. And that's when I found the email. So there I am. Standing on the pavement outside the office building. Coffee still in my hand. Still warm. HR had walked me out so fast I didn't even have my jacket. But I had my phone. And while I was sitting in my car trying to process what just happened, I opened my emails. I don't even know why. Muscle memory, maybe. And there it was. An email chain I hadn't noticed before. Buried under a week's worth of threads. It was from my manager, forwarded internally, and it contained a decision log for the project that had failed. The one he'd blamed on me. Except the log showed something very different. The decision he'd put on that slide, the one with my name on it, had been made in a meeting I wasn't even in. I was in another city that day. I had the train tickets to prove it. I sat in that car park for 2 hours. Then I called a lawyer. Now here's where I made a mistake. And honestly, it's embarrassing in retrospect. I had the evidence. I had the email chain. I had receipts, literally. But I waited. My lawyer said we had a strong wrongful termination case. But I kept second-guessing it. I kept thinking, what if I'm missing something? What if there's more to it? What if going after them publicly makes me look difficult and no one ever hires me again? So I sat on it for 3 weeks. And during those 3 weeks, 2 things happened. First, my manager started quietly reaching out to mutual contacts in the industry. Nothing explicit. Just little comments. Yeah, the project didn't go well. It's a shame. The kind of thing that plants a seed without leaving a paper trail. Second, one of my former colleagues, someone I actually liked, got promoted into my old role. That's when I stopped waiting. We filed the claim. The company's legal team responded within 48 hours, which told me everything. They knew. It settled out of court 4 months later. I can't share the exact number. What I can tell you is it was enough to cover a full year out of work, with room to breathe. But here's the part that stayed with me. When I looked back at why I nearly didn't act, why I sat in that car park and talked myself out of a case I knew I had, it came down to one thing. The psychology behind this is called scapegoating, and more specifically, the group dynamic that makes it work. When someone in authority publicly assigns blame, everyone else in the room doesn't evaluate it critically. They accept it. Because questioning the person in charge feels socially dangerous. My colleagues weren't bad people. They were doing what humans do in groups. They looked at the person with the most authority, saw that he was certain, and their brains said, okay, that must be true. It's not stupidity. It's how we're wired. We outsource certainty to whoever looks most confident. And I almost let it bury me. That story is about being blamed for something you didn't do. But what happens when you make a real mistake, and keep digging deeper trying to fix it? Marcus had a job he hated. Not mildly hated. Genuinely dreaded every Sunday night, couldn't sleep properly, stress eating at his desk by 11 a.m. kind of hated. But he'd been there for 7 years. And that was the problem. He was a project manager at a mid-size logistics company. Decent salary. Not amazing, but stable. And for the first few years, it was fine. He told himself it would get better. He waited for a promotion that kept getting delayed. He put in extra hours to prove himself. By year 5, he knew he wasn't going anywhere. But he'd already given so much. 7 years of his late 20s and early 30s. Relationships he'd neglected because of late nights. Weekends spent on call. He'd turned down 2 job offers in that time, both from smaller companies, both probably going nowhere, but still. He couldn't leave. Not after all that. So he stayed. And then the company announced a restructure. Marcus wasn't let go. That would have almost been easier. Instead, they moved him sideways. Same title. Less responsibility. A quiet demotion that everyone could see but nobody talked about. He had a decision to make. He finally quit. And here's where it went wrong. He quit without anything lined up. He told himself he'd earned the break. And he had. But he also burned his exit. He left on bad terms, a frustrated, emotional resignation email at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. He named specific colleagues. He called out the restructure for what it was. He felt amazing for about 6 hours. Then the job hunt started. 2 of the people he'd named in that email were well connected. One of them sat on an industry hiring panel. It took Marcus 11 months to find a new role. 11 months during which he burned through most of his savings and had to move back in with his parents at 34. He got there in the end. He's in a better job now. But those 11 months cost him more than money. The psychological trap Marcus fell into is called the sunk cost fallacy. It's the idea that because you've already invested so much time, energy, years of your life, leaving feels like a waste. So you stay longer than you should. You keep investing, hoping it'll eventually pay off. But past investment doesn't change your future outcome. The years Marcus gave that company were gone whether he stayed or left. The only thing that changes when you finally walk is what happens next. He stayed 7 years because of what he'd already put in. And that decision, not the resignation, not the email, that's the one that actually cost him. Marcus stayed too long because he couldn't let go of the past. The next story is about someone who stayed too long because she trusted the wrong person in the present. Priya had a mentor. He'd hired her, championed her, pushed her into rooms she never would have been in otherwise. She was 26. He was the head of the department. She trusted him completely. That was the mistake. Priya worked in marketing at a large media company. She was good. Genuinely talented. The kind of person who produces twice the output in half the time and still finds it in herself to help everyone else around her. Her mentor, Daniel, recognized that early. He started pulling her into senior meetings, giving her high visibility projects, crediting her work in presentations. She felt seen. She felt valued. She also started turning down other opportunities. An external recruiter reached out twice in 1 year. Both times, she said no. She told them she was happy where she was, that she had a real future at the company. Daniel had told her a promotion was coming. Director level. Just be patient. She was patient for 18 months. Then Daniel left. Sudden announcement, 2 weeks notice, new role at a competitor. Priya congratulated him. He thanked her. They hugged in the corridor. And then she found out, from a colleague, not from him, that he'd taken 2 members of the team with him to his new company. She wasn't one of them. She went back and applied for the director role internally. She had the experience. She had the track record. She was the obvious candidate. She got a very kind rejection email. They'd already decided to hire externally. Someone Daniel had recommended from his new network. The promotion was never really coming. She understood that now. And those 2 recruiter calls she'd declined? Gone. One of those roles had been filled by someone she'd trained. She spent the next year rebuilding, updating her network from scratch, learning to advocate for herself in a way she'd never had to because she'd always had someone doing it for her. The next job she got, she negotiated her own salary. She didn't wait for anyone to tell her she was ready. She got a 34% pay increase on the way out. What happened to Priya has a name. It's called misplaced trust, and psychologists often frame it through the concept of authority bias. We are wired to trust people in positions of authority. It's not weakness. It's how we survive in hierarchies. When someone senior takes an interest in you, your brain says, "This person knows more than me, I should follow their lead." The problem is that authority doesn't equal loyalty. Daniel wasn't a villain. He was just looking out for himself. He always was. Priya's trust was real. His investment in her only ever went as far as it was useful to him. The lesson isn't to distrust everyone above you. It's to keep your own options open, always, no matter how much you trust the person holding them. 3 different people. 3 different disasters. 1 got publicly blamed. 1 couldn't leave. 1 trusted the wrong person. But there's one thing all 3 had in common. They all let someone else control the story. And the moment they took that control back, whether in a courtroom, a resignation, or a salary negotiation, that's when things changed. If any part of this hit close to home, drop a comment. Tell me which story you recognized yourself in. And if you want more, the next video is about 3 times people were gaslit at work, and what finally made them trust themselves again. It's already up. Go watch it.